All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Car Tours on another Thursday here. So we're going to let people trickle in for a minute or two here as we've just started. But if you're tuning in and looking for the Seal Cove Auto Museum tour with Tim Weiss, you found it. So we're just going to give people a minute or two, and then we'll get started right into it. Man, you've got a lot of interesting cars in the background there, Tim. I'm sad to focus on two today.
I tried to pick two that were probably highly interesting and sporty models. So, but there's a lot of really great stuff here. Back to 1900 is our oldest.
Jesus.
It's pretty good. We do focus on the brass era, which runs to roughly 1915. So lots of old, really innovative stuff here.
Man, just fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple people logging in now finally.
Oh, great.
We'll just give another minute or two. And the people who have logged in, all you eager viewers, just to remind you guys, if you have questions through the tour, put them in the comments. We'll try to answer as many as we can get to. We'll try to punch them in between parts of the tour here. So if you see something that catches your eye or Tim mentions something interesting to you, let us know, and we can ask any questions or post any comments here that you may have. But yeah. All right, we'll do one more minute here. We got a couple people, but I'd like to see if we get a little bit more.
Sure.
Just the grill on that thing alone. But I'm not going to get into it yet. We'll give people a minute to join us, and we'll start talking about details.
Yeah, the radiator itself on that car is a feat of engineering in itself. So we'll probably talk half an hour about that.
Okay, now we've got some people. All right. Give them another 30 seconds, but now we're getting some viewership finally here. And we've got some active people too. We have a yo from Nibbles. So
I know that
guy. That's why I thought I mentioned just in case. I know you might have some people you already know who might be chiming in here too.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Well, we've got some viewers here, so we're gonna get this started. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us for this installation of Car Tours. I'm Nicholas Marinese. I'll be your host today. I'm the features and news editor here at Driving.ca. And so every week on Car Tour, we like to bring people into the collections or homes or garages of people with interesting cars. This week we're doing something a bit different. We're going to actually go into a museum, and we'll be talking with Tim Weiss, who's the Associate Director at the Seal Cove Auto Museum in Maine. We'll be looking at some of the cars in the collection. In particular, we're going to focus on two, since you only have a half hour for these. But we'll try to go a little in depth with those two, at least, is what we're going to try to do. And if you guys have any questions, any comments, let us know, and we'll answer them. I'll let Tim do a quick introduction about himself and about the museum before we get into the cars, and then we already have some questions, and I'll take those too. But let's start with Tim. Tell us a little bit about, I guess, the Seal Cove Auto Museum and how you got involved in it.
Well, we're located on Mount Desert Island here in Maine, which is pretty large size island. I moved here last year, and I had always pictured myself coming over here no matter what I was doing for work, and volunteering and helping work on the cars. And I saw a director position open up at the museum right at the ideal time, and I jumped on it and convinced him I loved cars enough and had enough management skills to handle the director position here. I've been here for 3 months now, so I'm kind of fresh, but I feel like I did dive right in and learn about the collection and about the cars. And I've been working on cars since I was 9 years old or something like that. So
Nice.
it kind of fit for me. And it's such a fantastic collection here. I'm proud to be a part of it.
Fantastic. We had one reader already, or one viewer, I should say, Alex, who says, "How long did it take to create the museum?" I guess he means how long has the collection been around, or how long did it take to build the collection. Do you know how the history a bit in terms of the collection?
I do. We started in the early 60s. It was all started out of the collection of one man. His name was Richard C. Payne, and he collected all types of cars. He always tried to find the best examples of cars that he was able to find and the rarest things. And he developed the museum. I believe we were incorporated in '63, and he passed away in 2007. And he left the museum as is for the public to enjoy. And that's kind of how it started. We did have probably 100 and something cars at one point in time. We're at a collection of about 60 plus right
Wow.
now.
And you were saying earlier the oldest car you have is about 1900. What's on the other end of the scale? What's the newest car that you guys have?
Well, we did just take a donation of a 1941 Pontiac Streamliner last year, so that would technically be the newest. It doesn't fit particularly with our main collection, which is 1900 and 1915. I would say that the Mercer is probably, which I'll show you in a little bit, the 1921 Mercer is one of the later ones that we have. It still fits with the theme of the collection.
Nice. Yeah, that's now that there it's probably not familiar to most of the people viewing. It's a little bit older than even a lot of car enthusiasts are used to talking about. But we're going to take a deep dive into two of the cars, and you can tell us which one you want to start with. And let's take a look at. I guess these are, like you say, in that brass area. These are kind of the representative of the collection, pretty appropriately. I think we lost your microphone.
Are you still there?
There we go. Yep. Sorry, just a quick break there. What was?
Hang on. I don't know what happened to my feed, but I can't hear you anymore.
I'm check 1 2. Any better? Check 1 2. Wouldn't be a car tour without technical difficulties. That's always there has to be something. Can you hear me now?
I'm going to rejoin the link. Give me just 1 second.
Okay, no problem. Sorry for that, guys. Just some technical difficulties, but we'll be back with Tim in a second. That's Tim Weiss, the Associate Director of the Seal Cove Auto Museum in Maine. And we'll be taking a look in just a second when he rejoins us at two of the cars in that museum's collection. Hello, Tim. Do we have you now?
There we are. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Somebody was trying to sell me on my 1990 Montero or something. So.
All right.
So you were just asking which car I'd want to start with. Do you want to just start with the FRP?
Sure, let's do that.
All right. Well, let me see if I can get a good shot for you all here of the whole thing. So this right here, that's a 1915 FRP. It was designed by Finley Robinson Porter. It was one of the most exclusive cars of the time. They ended up only building 9 of these vehicles.
Wow.
And we have what we believe, unless anybody wants to come out and tell us that we're wrong, this is the sole surviving factory-built FRP in existence.
Wow.
So the thing about Finley Porter was, and it actually ties right into the Mercer, is he used to design engines for Mercer, and he was responsible for the famous Mercer T-head runabout. He left Mercer. He had some disagreements and just started designing his own car. And this is a Brewster-bodied example. Here's the engine on it. And that is actually, from 1915, that is a 16-valve 4-cylinder engine. Very early use of that technology. This displaces 454 cubic inches, which is pretty big for a 4-cylinder. and we obviously have not dynoed it, but we'd like to. It's supposed to run about 170 horsepower, which was huge.
Wow. So what kind of speed would that thing maybe be capable of?
It said in the manual that it was good for 88 miles an hour. In our documentation, one of the previous owners used to drive it by the local Buick dealership at roughly 90, and had plenty of pedal to go. I think he had some kind of something approved to them. So we have not tested it. We are currently working on getting this vehicle running, although it appears that everything is in place and ready to go. So that should come pretty soon.
Nice.
But I'll show you a little bit of the interior of the car.
Look at that. Now, you got a lot of different controls, I presume, versus a modern car.
Yeah, well, I'll show you. This, I believe that this is for timing advance. This would be for throttle, so you can set idle speed. And then right here, I believe is fuel mixture, so you can adjust that on the go as well. Your gauges are all the way down here by your feet. And that's where all your controls are for starting the car and operating the vehicle. Your starter is actuated by a foot pedal in there. And I'll give you a shot of the rest of the interior here.
That's fantastic.
See if I can get a decent shot, but side bolsters right on the body. Large back seat with, you see the footrest down there?
Oh, yeah.
That you can fold up.
That's fantastic.
So it's a great convertible cruiser. Can't wait to see what it does on the road eventually. And it's great. It's very cool to be able to claim that that's the only one left in the world. It's got some great provenance and some really innovative features to it. And probably one of my favorite points here is, let's see if we can see the glass work in there.
Oh, yeah. Jesus.
Oh, and I told you I'd tell you about the radiator, right?
Yeah, because I just love the shape of it. Tell us about that.
Let's see if I can get you a good shot of the inside of the radiator. So you can see that it comes to a point right there, right?
Right.
That's not just a grill. If you can see in there.
Oh, it's like, oh, that's fantastic.
It's actually two pieces joined at the middle in that angle. Let's see.
That is wild.
Shot of the engine for fun.
Oh,
so that's
man.
that. I mean, we could talk all day about this particular car. We have a lot of history on it. It was bought as a chassis in 1915, and it was not completed until 1918 by Brewster. The owner bought 3 of them at once, and I think that the first 2 were his test cars. So by the time he got this one, he told them that he wanted the steering wheel 2 inches higher and the controls in a specific position. So it's pretty neat, and I love it. It's great.
Nice.
I'm sure I'll check in once it's running and let you know how it's.
You mentioned you love it. One viewer, Nathan Resnick, at the FRP is one of his favorites as well. And we had another viewer who actually was asking, Nibbles, was asking what your personal favorite is in the collection.
My personal favorite, I swing back and forth on that a little bit, but we can take a little walk and I'll show you. Let's see if I can get a few things in frame here for you.
Just the things you're walking by are just. I wish we had more time.
We're coming right up on it. This is a 1917 Simplex.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Fantastic car. It's in all original condition. And this particular car has 88,000 miles on it from new.
Wow.
Was owned in Maine by the wife, I believe, or the niece of the owner of the Kimball Piano Company in Rumford, Maine. So it's got some local provenance, and I just love it. I love the color. It's huge. It's got a gigantic, I think that's a right around a 440 cubic inch six-cylinder engine in that. So.
Nice. Now, with the FRP, you mentioned that you guys are working on getting that running. Do I understand that a lot of the cars in the collection are running driving examples that you guys do operate?
That's not entirely correct. A number of these could be made to run,
Okay.
but have been sitting static for some time. We do run a number of them. Actually, that kind of leads me into the Mercer, because this is one that we do operate on a fairly regular basis. So we do have a number that we do, and we have a number that we do not operate. The FRP is rare enough. Maybe we shouldn't drive it around too much, and I don't believe that we will, but it would be good to hear it run and see how it operates, especially with that 16-valve engine. So.
Nice. So when it comes to maintenance and stuff like that, before we get to the Mercer, I was just going to ask, I mean, I've owned a Model A Ford in 1928. You own a Model A Ford. But for our viewers who are maybe not so familiar, how different and how hard is keeping a car like the Mercer or the FRP running, or even getting it running if it hasn't been for a while? How difficult is that versus a newer car?
Well, probably the hardest thing to do is to find parts for a lot of these. We do have a mechanic on staff. He's fantastic. But a lot of times it's just finding parts for them. That's the hardest thing. The engines are fairly simple. Simple carburation, updraft, single barrel. Ignition systems are 6-volt, usually positive ground. But once you understand that kind of stuff, it's not too hard to work around and get things running. A lot of these are single cylinders, so it's kind of like pulling a lawnmower out and getting that started. A little bit more complex and a little bit more delicate due to the nature of the collection, but it's doable. The Mercer actually got new pistons just a couple of years ago, and we had to have those made. They're aluminum pistons. I believe one of the ring lands was gone on one of them, and so back in this period of time, they didn't really standardize many things, and finding the correct pistons for the Mercer were very difficult because they were constantly shifting where the wrist pin sits or what have you to increase compression or make it run a little smoother or whatever. So in order to find original pistons, we would have had to pretty much take ours apart, measure everything, and then hope we got the right ones. So we just had them patterned and made for this particular car.
Right. I do want to get to the Mercer, but we have a couple of questions that keep coming in.
Sure.
Speaking of operating these cars, we have Chris Campbell asking, can these cars, or I guess I know this probably doesn't apply across the board, but can some of these cars run on regular unleaded pump gas, or what do you run these on?
So the interesting thing is that these cars were all produced before leaded gas became a thing. So you are able to run these on regular pump gas. What we typically run is ethanol-free 93 in these cars. Just if the fuel sits for a little bit longer, it's better not to have ethanol in the system. Some of the rubbers in some of these cars can't hold up to the ethanol. So, but yes, we absolutely can run them on pump gas.
Nice. We have a question from Kevin Backman. He asks, are there any Graham Page vehicles in the collection?
There are not any Graham Page cars in this collection at this time.
Right, and then we have this is surprising coming from Clayton, but he's wondering, Clayton S. asks, which car in the museum is the fastest?
Well, I'll bring you over. I was in pre-live conversation. I was showing Nicholas this particular car. I'll come right over here. This is our 1908 Stanley Model K semi-racer. So this is the factory version. I'll just keep that right in frame so you guys can see it. So this is a steam-powered car made by Stanley Corporation, and this was the street-going version of the world record breaker of 1907 and that went 127 miles an hour. So
Gee.
I believe this to be the fastest one in the collection, but I don't know. I'm not gonna try it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we've talked about a little bit about it, hinted at it. Let's look at this Mercer. That's the second car we're going to look at today.
Come back over here. So here is.
Oh, nice.
Better. So this is a 1921 Mercer Model 5 Sporting. See if I could give you a shot of the interior. This is largely original. You can definitely see the original leather on the seats, etc. We have a good old blanket here to protect what's there, since we do drive this. Let's see. There you can see all the switch gear and whatnot in there.
Oh, man.
This is a 300 cubic inch 4 L-head flathead configuration. And while I believe this is rated somewhere in the area of 70 horsepower.
That's not
but
bad.
I will tell you, a 4-cylinder of this size, having driven this car, mountains of torque. So you let the clutch out, and it's amazing how quick it gets away. It's fantastic.
Wow. So when you drive these cars around, what kind of reactions do you typically get out on the road?
Well, if we're local here, a lot of people know us. They see cars out and about quite often. So, they're just kind of like, oh, there's the guys in the museum. I haven't been here long enough. And of course, we've been living in lockdown. So we haven't really taken these much further than just local. But I will report back to you on that when I finally see what the reactions are.
Fantastic. So, what can you tell us about the history of Mercer, I guess, and about this car in particular, too?
This one, so from my research, I believe that there is only 17 of this particular Mercer left in existence. I don't believe production was very high on these to begin with. Mercer actually only lasted as a company until 1925, and then they had gone out of business. But they were relying on their heritage of the early 1910s Mercers to sell their vehicles. Still a very fast car. This particular one, there is some provenance to this one. It was owned by a collector in the 60s. I believe this was a donation to the museum. He did add this marine spot lamp to the other side.
All right.
Which is pretty cool. And we keep this, we try and keep this running. It's hit many parades. I believe our executive director has he says maybe 500 or 600 miles on it in the past year or so. So it's great. It's reliable. It leaks all over the place because that's what old cars do. But we believe that we have stopped a number of the leaks from it right now, and it should be ready to go as soon as we are able to do events and whatnot again. We'll be taking it out. So yeah, there we go. Oh, and for anybody here from New Jersey, this car was built in Trenton. So I don't imagine that you'd see too many cars built in Mercer County, Trenton, New Jersey.
That's just fantastic. Wow. So this is kind of a selfish question because I'm big into research and stuff as well. But when you're looking up these cars and trying to determine how many are left, how does that kind of process work? How do you single out, how many of a particular model are remaining?
Well, with the FRP, it's been documented for such a long time that all the research on that has pretty much been done. Bill Harrah of Harrah's Casinos had a large car collection, and this was his kind of the only car that he really sought to the level that he saw at the FRP. He looked for one forever and ever. He finally found one, and I believe he found the shell of another that a lot of parts come off of. But Harris people, I believe, did all the research on this. I keep poking around to find out if there is another one out there, because I just want to know if there is. I keep saying it. We have binders on most of these cars that where a lot of research has been previously done. And I keep poking around auction catalogs. A Brewster, since this is Brewster bodied, Brewster and company actually had a lot of the records on the car, which is how I was able to know that the steering wheel is 2 inches higher in this one because this is the way it was ordered. We know it's chassis number 5 out of 9 from some old factory records, and that's pretty much how we get around it. Auction records historically help out a lot too. So there's a lot of different sources. The internet makes it a lot easier these days.
I was going to note on the FRP, especially since you mentioned the steering wheel measurements there. It looks like that the front seats are staggered, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
The front seats are not staggered. They're actually all one piece. You can see where the...
Okay, there we go. Okay, the backs didn't line up is what threw me off, and I was trying to figure out if that was deliberate.
Yeah, no, that's they're all one thing. I believe that these do slide, so you do have a little bit of back and forth. I was just under that to verify the condition of the leather and the material that was used in it, and it appears that they do slide, or you can at least unbolt it and bolt it one bolt pattern back or forward. But look very comfortable.
They do.
Nice little center bolster. That's probably the angle that you were looking at, where it was a little.
Yeah, it was just throwing me a bit, but that's fantastic. My God.
I fit in this car a lot better than I fit in the Mercer. The Mercer, if you look at the angle of the steering wheel on that versus the seat, I can't even get in there. I have to step over the steering wheel and then kind of slide down in the seat. But once you're in there, it's very comfortable, and the steering wheel is enormous, which is, no power steering. So
I was going to ask that, I guess, as one of the final questions before we wrap up here. Obviously, you have a lot of experience with these cars, but for someone who's not too experienced, would it be very hard for them to learn how to drive one of these kind of things, or how easy could it be to adapt?
Well, I mean, this is the way people drove. They just were, I think, more in connection with the car. If you're a complete novice, of course you can learn. You just have to understand a little bit about spark advance and fuel mixtures and how cars run. Modern EFI systems take all the fun out of it for me. So, but yeah, I mean, you jump in. You need to turn the fuel feed on to a lot of these cars and turn it off when you leave. You have to manually pull the choke. You have to adjust the timing so it's retarded. And you fire it off, and then immediately you have to swing the timing advance up and release the choke, and just make sure that she's going right. It's good. I think anybody can learn. I think that more people probably should learn. My personal opinion there, but I think a lot of people would be very, very much in contact with the vehicle that they're driving down the road if they were able to get into something like this and start it up.
Nice. Well, I can't.
And synchros and transmissions didn't exist either. So.
Right.
So it would be a grinding experience for
Nice. Man, I gotta give you points for that pun alone. But anyway, I think we're just gonna wrap it up about here because we're just about out of time. Do you have any kind of websites or social media that we can follow the Seal Cove Auto Museum on?
Sure. Our Facebook and Instagram, Seal Cove Auto Museum for both. And you can find us on the web at sealcoveautomuseum.org. And we'd love to see you over there or following us on our social media. And I thank everybody for coming today. It's been great.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us and for your questions, especially from the viewers. Car Tours runs every Thursday, so we should be back here again next Thursday unless we have some more technical difficulties. I can't line someone up, but I think we already do have a guest lined up. I think I will be hosting again, but I'm not going to have any spoilers yet. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Thursday. Thank you, Tim, so much for giving us this personal tour of the collection. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, have a good one.
Have a good one.